Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 25 years of my life. Right now, I'm just taking you through Lompoc. I spent 2001 to 2004 in Lompoc. The reason I left Lompoc is because they opened up a new USP, Victorville, and Lompoc was just getting too much. So they closed it down and turned it to an FCI. So through the course of these programs, these episodes, you're gonna walk through the yard with me. You're gonna walk through the hallway with me. You're gonna sit and eat chow with me in Lompoc. Everything in Lompoc is segregated. There's only 4 TVs in this unit: a black TV, a white TV, a Mexican TV, and a sports TV. But each of those TVs, the Mexican TV is controlled by the Serenos. The black TV is controlled by the Crips. The white TV is controlled by the brand. The brand is the Aryan Brotherhood, the one from California. Whatever yard they're on, they're the law for the white boys. And the reason they're able to be the law, the shot callers for the white boys, the big homies, is because these dudes are of a different breed. Just like the Black Hands, just like anybody that's a leader in their organization, they're a different breed from the rest. Because, for you to be a leader, for you to lead in an environment we in, you got to be respected. And being respected in our environment is not just your capacity for violence, but you have to be intelligent. You have to be informed. You have to be able to be a diplomat. There's a lot of stuff that goes in. And, and for you to be a leader in this environment, it's your peers who elevated you because they see the traits in you that they respect, and they trust you to lead them. Everything has a change of command in there. Even with us, the Asian Islanders. But ours is not structured like a gang because we're just a collective of groups that come from all parts of the country and different in the world. But even we have somebody that speaks for us, somebody that's responsible for certain things, because when something happens, there's no need to have 20 motherfuckers trying to make a decision. And then, especially if some of those 20s aren't dudes that are on the front line. Like me personally, I never let nobody speak for me because I'm not gonna allow nobody to put my life in jeopardy because I already not do put my life I put myself out there on my own. If I believe in something, I'm be on the front line. So I'm not part of any of these gangs. I'm really truly independent. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in somebody else's backyard, and I know that I can only rely on myself. Even though I've created rapport and relationships amongst other people, and we bonded or whatnot, at the end of the day, I know I can count on me. And that's what's kept me alive. I've kept myself alive. So I've never allowed anyone to speak in my behalf. If anything, I've been the one pushing the line in there, adamant about paperwork being checked, rules being followed. Because I know that when situation happens, not everybody's gonna show up. But the one that always showed up through the course of the 20 something years I've done was me. And any homie, any race, anybody that's ever been on any yard with me, they saw that I was on the front line every single time. So back to Lompoc. Everything is segregated. TVs, tables, sales. Like we own property in prison. Like you come in and say, oh, even though there's nobody living in there, a guard's not gonna put you in that cell because the South Sider or the Crips or the Whites or us, Asian Islanders, has claimed these particular cells for Pacific groups. And even the guards back then, they respected the politics because they know how serious stuff gets. You know, I don't want to take anything away from the people that was in the system before me because, the generation before me, especially if you were Asian, an Islander or whatever, there's not a whole lot of them in the system, and they held it down. But at the same time, there wasn't any unity. The Guamanians hang out with the Guamanians, the Hawaiians hang out with the Hawaiians, the Vietnamese hang out with the Vietnamese, the Chinese hang out with the Chinese, so on and so forth. We all call ourselves like a group. We're not a DG, designated DG, which is the disruptive group. We're not a gang, but we eat at the same table, we share the same spaces, and if something happens, we're all involved anyway. But with me, Bryson, Eddie, and a few others that came through, our generation is the one that entered the feds in the early 2000s, late 1990s. We made the Asian Islander a formidable group. The homies from Utah, Paul, and the Tokos that came through, like, we really became a force through the system. Like, if anybody's in there in Atwater that did time with us from 2008 to 2015, they're gonna tell you that was our yard. Same as Victorville. The homies held it down in Victorville. But once you leave California, the West Coast, like Florence, I just left, there was 5 of us. And you go further out, it's the same. And it's just, it's whatever. But back to Lompoc. Everything is serious in Lompoc. Even sports. Like, the most competitive sports in Lompoc was softball. And it's a very dangerous game. Not the sports itself, but the politics. Basketball, it wasn't very competitive because the blacks usually dominates the basketball. There was no football because there was a riot between the blacks and the whites. So there was no football anywhere throughout the California federal system. We barely got to play football in 2010 in Atwater because they were scared for the riot because you're hitting. So some people just join the team to play football to take their aggression out. They're not even worried about the plays or trying to win the game. They're just trying to lay somebody out, And I don't really know all the particulars that happen between the blacks and the whites in Lompoc, but no one really talks about it because there's always a loser and a winner in every incident. And once something is done, outside of just you and your homies sharing the story, you don't talk about it because Somebody, the losers, might get wind of it and hear them think that you're bragging about it, and it might stir up old feelings. And again, it's so easy for shit to pop off. You know, we took pride and ego to a whole nother level. You know, the people that are in the penitentiary are already prone to violence, and some of them enjoy that stuff. Like I'm not gonna deny that. Like some people enjoy that stuff. Some people live for that stuff. Some people enjoy the chaos. So you have 1,500, 2,000 individuals on a yard, and 1,000 of them loves the chaos. Just think about that kind of environment. You know, the peace. Nobody wants the peace. The peace is there just so people can conduct business and, for the most part, function. But everybody hates everybody, and everybody's itching for a chance to butcher the next dude. They're enemies. These are enemies walking around amongst each other. So any excuse they have to kill each other, they're gonna go for it. You know. Anyway, softball is a competitive sport. All the races has, almost an equal chance of winning. The three major teams that always end up in the championships was the Crips, the Sereños, and us, the Asian Islanders. You know, like when we play the Sereños, like I said, we us being Asian Islander, we don't have the racism, the hatred that has existed in the California yards amongst the black, the whites, and the Mexicans. So whatever group we play against, people, the whole half the yard comes out and watch because it's entertaining. And these dudes, you might think it's just a bunch of gangsters and drug dealers out there being bad news bears, but these stuff we get real competitive, and these dudes know how to ball. They're like Bolo, the one I was telling you about. That's Hawaiian and black Crip dude. He was a bad motherfucker. Booby from Louisiana. He was good. And they had Kavika, who was a Southsider, youngster that came down. He could hit a home run, left hand, right hand, eyes closed. He was just skilled like that. And I learned. I never played before, so in the beginning, I tried to play infield, but I was scared of the ball, so I went to outfield. But running around trying to chase the ball, my glasses moved. I couldn't see, so it was difficult to adjust. But eventually, I figured it out. I started out in right field, and before the end of the season, I became left field. And before I left the system, I ended up being able to play shortstop and whatnot. I've always been one that if I'm gonna do something, I want to get better at it. But back to softball, when we play against the Sereno, people come and watch out. We joke, we laugh. Everybody hee hee ha ha. We clowning and whatever. When we play against the Crips, it's the same thing. We're talking shit back and forth. The yard is rowdy. Everybody's laughing, kicking it. It's competitive, but we're having fun. But when the Serenos and the blacks play, all the blacks on the compounds are out there. All the Mexicans are out there. Serenos and Paisa. One side, it's all Mexican. One side, it's all black. Everybody's armed, strapped. And you can literally hear a mouse fart. There's no talking. There's no clowning. It's not fun. The only people that you hear out there when they're playing softball is me and my homies on the basketball court cheering for and talking shit to both teams. But amongst each other, against each other, the Serenos and the Crips, there's no joking around. There's money, like thousands and thousands of dollars being bet on it. And everybody is there with their knife because it's a potential race riot. If you're an umpire, If you're not, mostly most umpires are respectable dudes, like are maybe leaders in gangs or whatever, and are respectable dudes because if you're not and you're out there and you make a call and someone doesn't agree with it, again, it could cost you your life. Like everything costs, like every move you make, every step you take, it's a potential has the potential to be your last. So when they play, the gun tower's windows are all open. The guns are out. The guards are ready for it because it's serious business. One time they had this white guy who was an umpire. He made a couple of questionable calls, and Bolo went up to him and said, "Hey, you get one, make one of them back, another bad call. Don't come back to the unit." The guy got so scared he quit umping, and somebody had to replace him because people don't make idle threats to you in there, and it was a serious sport. But anyway, we played 3 seasons, and we went to the championship every single time, but we never won. You know, we got beat out by the Crips twice, by the Serenos once. Yeah, we never won, but it was always competitive, and that's sports in Lompoc. Even though you're out there to have fun, it's still something serious. You still gotta bring your knife out there. You still gotta mind your P's and Q's. It never stops. The stress, the your nerves, your awareness, it never stops. But I don't even. Yeah, I know. I don't even under. I don't. Yeah, it's just remembering those times and whatnot. Now that I'm home and being able to reflect on it, it's just you get a chance now to realize how crazy that shit was. Being in there at the time, you don't have time to think about it because you accepted the environment, so you conduct yourself. When in Rome, you go accordingly, and it becomes normal to you that everywhere you go, you gotta have a knife on you. That every time you work out, you can't just work out. If I'm doing push-ups on the yard with somebody, they're facing this way, I'm facing that way because we don't want nobody running up on us. Because you can dictate, you can only control what you do. You can't dictate what the next man do. And me and whoever I'm working out, we might be cool. We might be just kicking mind on our own business. But another homie that's working in Unicor or in the kitchen or in the unit might have gotten into a confrontation with somebody and we're not aware of it, and they get word out, and if they have homies on the yard and they see us out there on the yard, they come and hit us. It's just the way it is. And no matter if they're in the shoe, in the unit, in the kitchen, there's always a way to communicate. Somehow, some way, there's always a way to get word out on what's going on. On the next episode, I'm gonna tell you about the riots between the Florida and the Crips. These are just times that I've spent in Lompoc. They're not necessarily going in chronicle order because, shit, after all these years, everything is just one big mess, So, come join me back on the next one. I'm gonna tell you about the Florida and the Crip riots. Welcome to the USP, and thank you for tuning in.